Stop walking to your kitchen for a second. Stand right where you are. Now sit back down. Did that feel effortless, or did you notice your legs shake just a little, your hands reaching for something to push against? If you felt anything at all in that simple motion, stay with me for the next few minutes, because what you're about to hear could matter more for your long-term health than every walk you've taken this year combined. For decades, we've been told that walking is the gold standard of exercise once you pass 60. Doctors recommend it, magazines praise it, and honestly, it's good advice. Walking is gentle, it's free, and it gets your blood moving. But here's the uncomfortable truth that almost nobody talks about. Walking alone is not enough to protect the one thing that determines whether you stay independent in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. That one thing is muscle. And there's a single, almost embarrassingly simple movement that builds it faster, safer, and more effectively than walking ever could. Most people over 60 have never been taught to do it properly, and that gap might be quietly costing them years of strength. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that movement is, why your body responds to it so powerfully after 60, and how to fold it into your day in a way that takes less time than brewing a pot of coffee. So let's get into it. Here's something that might surprise you. Somewhere around age 30, your body begins losing muscle mass at a slow, steady rate. By the time most people reach 60, that loss has quietly accelerated, especially if daily activity has been limited to walking and everyday chores. Doctors have a name for this condition, sarcopenia, the gradual age-related loss of muscle tissue and strength. It doesn't announce itself with pain or a diagnosis on a chart. It shows up in smaller, sneakier ways. A jar lid that used to twist open easily now fights back. Stairs that once felt like nothing now leave you a little breathless. Standing up from a low couch suddenly requires a push from your hands instead of just your legs. And here's the part that catches people off guard. You can walk 2 miles every single morning and still lose muscle because walking, as wonderful as it is, mostly just doesn't ask your muscles to do very much extra work. Think about the mechanics for a second. When you walk, your body weight is constantly supported, one foot is always in contact with the ground, and your stride. Length and pace usually stay pretty consistent day after day. Your legs get used to it, they adapt to the demand, and then they coast. Meanwhile, the muscles that matter most for staying independent later in life, the ones in your thighs, hips, glutes, and core, barely get challenged beyond what they already know how to do. That's exactly why so many people who walk faithfully every single day still struggle to get up off a low chair without pushing off with their hands, still feel unsteady on uneven ground, and still notice their balance isn't what it used to be. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of effort. It's simply that walking and true strength training ask completely different things of your body, and after 60, your body needs both. So what's the fix? You don't need a gym membership. You don't need dumbbells, resistance bands, or a personal trainer standing over your shoulder. You need a sturdy chair in about 5 minutes. The movement is called the sit to stand, or if more casually, the chair squat. And once you understand why it works, you'll never look at just standing up the same way again. Think about what actually happens in your body the moment you rise from a seated position. You're lifting a significant portion of your own body weight against gravity, using that as resistance training in its purest, most practical form. No machine required. Because more your body adapts to it, the chair squat continues to demand real effort from your muscles every single time, because you're always moving your own full body weight, no more, no less. Rehabilitation programs after surgery, after a fall, or after a long hospital stay, because it retrains one of the most fundamental patterns a human body performs, going from seated to standing safely and with control. In fact, researchers use a version of this exact movement, counting how many times a person can stand up and sit back down in 30 seconds, as one of the most reliable indicators of lower body strength, balance, and overall physical function in older adults. People who can perform more repetitions in that window tend to show better mobility, better balance, and a lower risk of falls than those who struggle with the movement. That's not a small correlation. That's your body telling you, in the clearest way possible, how ready it is for daily life. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, this sounds fine for someone else, but my knees aren't what they used to be, or I've been inactive for years, there's no way I could do this, I want you to hear me clearly. This movement adapts to you, not the other way around. You control how deep you go. You control how fast or slow you move. You have the chair right behind you the entire time as a safety net. This isn't about performing a perfect gym squat. It's about relearning and strengthening a motion your body already does dozens of times a day, just with a little more intention behind it. Let's walk through exactly how to do it safely, step by step, so you can try it the moment this video ends. Start by sitting toward the front edge of a sturdy, stable chair, one that won't slide or wobble. A dining chair against a wall works well. Avoid anything with wheels or soft cushioning that sinks when you sit. Place your feet flat on the floor, roughly shoulder width apart, with your knees bent at a comfortable angle. Keep your chest lifted and your eyes looking forward, not down at your feet. From here, lean your torso very slightly forward from your hips, almost like you're about to greet someone with a small bow. This shifts your weight over your feet and takes unnecessary strain off your lower back. Now press firmly through your heels and slowly rise to standing. There's no need to rush this. In fact, rushing is one of the biggest mistakes people make, because speed removes control, and control is exactly what builds strength and stability. Once you're standing, straighten your body fully, but over locking your knees harshly. Pause there for just a breath. Then, with the same slow, deliberate control, bend at your hips and knees and lower yourself back down until you lightly touch the seat of the chair. That's one full repetition. If you need extra support in the beginning, and there's absolutely no shame in this, rest your hands lightly on the armrests or your thighs as you push up. As your strength builds over the coming weeks, you can gradually lift your hands away, eventually crossing your arms over your chest to make the movement more challenging. Breathing matters here too, more than most people realize. As you stand up, breathe out, slowly through your mouth. As you lower back down, breathe in through your nose. This isn't just a technical detail, it actually helps engage your core, stabilizes your spine, and keeps you from holding your breath, which is a common habit that can spike blood pressure unnecessarily during exertion. Now let's talk about why this matters beyond just your legs, because the ripple effects of this one movement reach much further into your health than most people expect. Every time you challenge a muscle with resistance, your body releases signaling molecules called myokines. Think of these as tiny chemical messengers that travel from your working muscles out into the rest of your body, where they are involved in processes linked to reducing inflammation, supporting healthy insulin sensitivity, and even protecting brain function. Walking triggers some of this response too, but resistance-based. Movement, like standing up against your own body weight, tends to stimulate it more strongly. In other words, when you do a set of chair squats, you're not just working your thighs. You're sending a signal through your entire body that says, keep the system running, keep it strong. Then there's your heart. It's easy to assume cardio is only about walking, jogging, or cycling, but any movement that raises your heart rate and challenges multiple large muscle groups at once, the way chair squats do, contributes to circulation, oxygen delivery, and overall cardiovascular conditioning. Combine that with regular walking, and you're covering far more ground for your heart health than either activity could accomplish alone. And then there's balance, which might be the single most underrated benefit of them all. Falls are one of the greatest threats to independence after 60, not because of the fall itself necessarily, but because of everything that can unravel afterward. Reduced confidence, reduced mobility, sometimes a long and difficult recovery. Every single time you lower yourself under control and stand back up without wobbling, you are training the exact coordination between your muscles, your joints, and your nervous system that keeps you steady on your feet. You're not just building strength in isolation, you're rehearsing stability itself in a controlled, low-risk environment, so that when you need that stability out in the real world, on uneven pavement or stepping off a curb, your body already knows what to do. Let's pause for a moment and talk honestly about fear, because this rarely gets discussed openly, and it deserves to be. Many people over 60 start quietly shrinking their world without even realizing it's happening. A walk that used to go around the block now stops at the mailbox. An invitation to visit grandchildren gets turned down because the stairs at their house feel intimidating. None of this usually comes from a single dramatic moment. It creeps in gradually, driven by a fear of losing balance, a fear of falling, a fear of not being able to get back up. And the tricky part is that fear itself becomes part of the problem. When fear limits movement, muscles weaken further from disuse. When muscles weaken, the risk of an actual fall increases, and that reinforces the fear all over again. It's a slow, quiet cycle, and one of the most effective ways to interrupt it is by rebuilding real, tangible strength and confidence, one controlled, sit to stand at a time. I want to address something else directly, because I know some of you are thinking it. What if you have knee pain, or a stiff lower back, or you simply haven't exercised in years? These are legitimate concerns, and they deserve a real answer, not a dismissive one. If your knees are sensitive, simply reduce how deep you lower yourself. You don't need to come anywhere close to a full seated position at first. Even a small, controlled dip and rise counts as genuine training. If your lower back feels tight or unstable, focus on keeping your chest lifted throughout the movement and slow everything down even further. And if you've been inactive for a long stretch of time, there is nothing wrong with starting at 2 or 3 repetitions. The body doesn't care how impressive your starting point looks. It only cares that you show up and give it a consistent, appropriate signal to adapt. One thing worth being completely transparent about: if you have severe joint pain, you've recently had surgery, or you're managing a serious medical condition, please check with your doctor or physical therapist before starting any new movement routine, including this one. That's not a throwaway disclaimer. It's genuinely important. Mild muscle fatigue during and after exercise is completely normal. Sharp or worsening pain is not, and it's always a signal to stop and reassess rather than push through. Now, here's where I think this gets genuinely exciting, because strength isn't just a physical outcome, it's an emotional one too. Think about what it would feel like to stand up from your bed in the morning without that first wave of stiffness, to rise from your favorite chair without needing to brace against the armrest, to climb a flight of stairs and reach the top without your legs burning halfway you pee. These aren't unrealistic, far-off goals reserved for people who were always athletic. They are the very practical, very achievable results of building real strength in your legs, hips, and core, starting from wherever you are right now, today. And that strength has a way of spilling over into confidence that goes far beyond the physical. When your body feels more capable, you tend to say yes to more things. Yes to the family trip that involves a bit of walking. Yes to the friend's invitation. That means navigating some stairs. Yes to simply moving through your day without constantly calculating what your body can and can't handle. Physical strength and emotional confidence are far more connected than most people ever realize, and this simple movement sits right at the intersection of both. Let's clear up a couple of myths that tend to hold people back from ever trying this in the first place. The first myth is that strength training is something reserved for younger people or for those who were already athletic earlier in life. That simply isn't true. Muscle tissue doesn't check your birth certificate before deciding whether to respond to a workout. It responds to demand, plain and simple. A 75-year-old who has never lifted anything heavier than a grocery bag can still build meaningful strength within a matter of weeks, provided the movement is appropriate and consistent. The second myth is that you need to feel sore or exhausted afterward for an exercise to be working. That mindset does far more harm than good, especially later in life. The goal here isn't to leave you wiped out. It's to leave your muscles slightly more challenged than they were the day before, in a way your body can recover from easily and build on again tomorrow. There's also a subtler myth worth mentioning, the idea that if you can already walk long distances comfortably, you must be fit enough and don't need anything else. Cardiovascular endurance and muscular strength are simply two different systems in your body, measured and built in different ways. You can have excellent stamina for a long walk and still have surprisingly limited strength in your hips and thighs, the very muscles that determine how easily you get up off the floor if you ever needed to, or how confidently you catch yourself if you stumble. Walking tells you how well your heart and lungs are holding up. The chair squat tells you how well your muscles and joints are holding up. Both numbers matter, and neither one can substitute for the other. Once the basic chair squat starts to feel comfortable, and for many people that happens within just a couple of weeks of consistent practice, there are a few gentle ways to keep progressing without ever needing equipment. One option is to slightly widen or narrow your stance to shift the emphasis between your inner thighs and outer hips. Another is to try a version where you stand up and immediately step one foot slightly forward before sitting back down, which adds a small balance challenge on top of the strength challenge. For those who feel ready for more, holding a light household item, a filled water bottle, or a small bag of rice in each hand while performing the movement adds extra resistance without requiring a trip to any store. None of these variations need to happen right away. They're simply there for when your body tells you it's ready for a bit more. It's also worth mentioning what this movement can do for something people rarely connect to strength training: sleep and daily energy. Regular resistance-based movement. Adults, when your muscles are used purposefully, your body tends to recover more deeply overnight, and many people report feeling less of that mid-afternoon slum. Let's talk practically for a second about how to actually fit this into a real busy life, because knowing an exercise is good for you and actually doing it consistently are two very different things. The people who stick with this long-term almost never rely on willpower or motivation alone. Instead, they attach it to something they already do every single day. Do a set while your morning coffee brews. Do a set during a commercial break, or while you're waiting for a show to load. Do a set right before you brush your teeth at night. When a new habit gets stitched onto an existing one, it stops requiring extra mental energy to remember, and that's often the difference between something that lasts 2 weeks and something that lasts 2 years. It's also worth saying clearly, this isn't about replacing your walks. If walking is something you already enjoy, keep doing it. It's 25, but the capacity to build real strength, real balance, and real function is still very much there, waiting to be used. Yours still has and build a little more on top of it, and that signal doesn't have to be complicated or intense. It can be as simple as standing up from a chair, slowly and with intention, a handful of times today. If you tried and stopped exercise before, if pain interrupted your progress at some point, or what actually reshape how your body feels and functions, far more than any single intense effort ever could. Watch for the early signs that your body is responding, because they usually show up before the big, obvious changes do. Your body is listening and adapting, and they're absolutely worth celebrating as they happen. In the next video, we're going to build on this foundation and turn this single movement into... Before you go, I'd genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me roughly where you're starting from, whether strength exercises have already been part of your routine, or whether walking has been your main form of movement up until now. Your experience might be exactly what encourages someone else reading through the comments to try this for the first time. And if this video gave you a new way of thinking about your body and what it's still capable of, consider sticking around for more practical, straightforward guidance built around strong, confident, independent aging. Share it with someone who could use a little encouragement today, because sometimes all it takes to change a habit is one person saying, "You can still do this." Take a slow breath, roll your shoulders back, and remember it is never too late to become just a little stronger than you were yesterday. We'll keep building on this together, one simple step at a time.